Hey friends, welcome in. I am so excited because today you get to experience a sneak peek into a real piano lesson. I was teaching my student Jill the other day and I just happened to press record because we were trying to get a good recording of one of her pieces, and I recorded the whole lesson, and I'm so glad that I did because it ended up being a really incredible lesson. And I asked her if she would mind if I shared it with the YouTube community because I thought it would be really helpful for all of you. We go over several practice techniques that you can see and utilize in your own practice, and they're going to be really helpful for you. Now, Jill is working from this book, I Used to Play Piano, that is published by Alfred, and it's a really great book to use if you used to play the piano and you're coming back to it, or you have some knowledge of the piano and you're starting up again. I split this lesson up into two videos. So in part one today, we're going to go over Ballad for a Starry Night, which is page 32 and 33 in this book. And then you're also going to get to watch us drill the piece called Blues Train, which is on page 34 and 35 of this book. And the drilling that we do in this piece is going to be so applicable to many other pieces. So I really suggest that you watch all the way through part one of this video. Now you'll have to stay tuned if you're watching this video the day it comes out. In about a week, part two of this lesson is going to drop. And if you're watching this after the fact, then you can go ahead and look for part two and watch that as well, where we're going to cover more pieces from the book and also some rhythm exercises and some technique exercises. Enjoy and happy practicing. I'm excited to hear this one.
All right, here we go. Better?
Yes! Oh my gosh, that was spectacular. That was really good. Pedaling was great. I loved your dynamics. Your dynamics were really good. So overall, it felt really musical. And I think the other thing that blew me away was just how much it flowed. I think this is a great example of what I think is going to come, because up until now, your pieces have been sounding really good. They've been sounding really, really good. And we've been working towards getting the rhythm to feel like a little bit more natural and a little bit more flowy. And I think it really clicked in this piece. How did that feel?
It felt better. It got really fun to play, and I really slowed down and counted the quarter notes. And then all of a sudden I found that I wasn't counting them anymore, and it was more just I was feeling it, and I was like, oh, I'm rushing those again. So it felt better after I did it a while.
Good. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, it's sounding really nice. I also like that, it's called Ballad for a Starry Night. And I think that you did a really great job of actually like evoking a sense of calm a little bit. And so that was nice too, because it felt like you painted a picture of a starry night. So that was great. Nice. I think we can move on from that one. Let's go on. And so you were working on page 34 and 35. Just the left hand, right?
Well, I can play it.
Oh, yay. Okay. Awesome.
Not very well, but I can play it.
Okay, cool. Let's hear it all then.
So I got the left hand totally done, and I got the right hand through like measure 17.
Mm-hmm.
And I can play it through measure 17.
Okay.
Yeah, slowly.
Okay.
What I'm not sure about, that I kind of stopped myself on yesterday, I stopped practicing it because I found that I was looking at my hands and knowing what I was supposed to play because it repeats itself so much. So yesterday I stopped and I went back to trying to really, and then I had to slow it way back down. So that's where I'm at. I'm slow because if I'm going to look at the music, I can't go faster.
Okay.
I always kind of start with the left hand. I like, okay. down and
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, okay, so that was great. That was really good. You also said you were going to start really slow, and then I was kind of floored by how fast that was. So is that as the speed that you're usually playing at?
no, I think if
Okay.
I go slower, I do a lot better, but that's the pace I was playing at when I was looking at my hands. And I don't know if you noticed.
Got
I'm looking
it.
at my hands again.
Yes. And so what happens is you have it partially in your memory, but not fully in the memory. And so you're at this point, and it's a common thing that happens. You're at this point where you can't fully look at the music because you have to change your hand positions, and you can't fully look at your hands because you don't have it totally memorized. So let's try it one more time and let's go way slower. And I want you to try to check in with both. Try to look at your hands when you need to, but keep your eyes on the music and try to take the whole thing at a more reasonable tempo, and let's see if we can get through it.
That's where I lose it because I don't have that right hand notes yet.
Okay. Well, that was a lot better. That was really good. So you were able to stick with a steady rhythm. You were able to get all of the notes. How did that feel to play it that way?
Better. I mean, definitely better. I'm still struggling with moving my, I had to do the sticky note method
Mm-hmm.
to be able to get that right hand to move from the fourth finger C up to the E flat and then move it back to the fourth finger C after holding for the whole note. But I got it. I mean, I got it. I just every once in a while I mess it back up. And then as soon as I have the wrong finger, it's sort of all the fingers follow wrong.
Yeah, that makes sense. So first of all, I'm glad you did the post-it method for that because that's what I would recommend to do for that. And you're getting really good at that method. The cool thing is that you start to solidify exactly what fingers you need to use, and it starts to get into your muscle memory. And the downside of that, of being so good, is that if you do make a mistake, then it does kind of derail it because your hands and your muscle memory works within the box that you taught it, and it's not gonna work so well. But as we continue to get more comfortable with it, you'll start to get it into other layers of memory, and then it won't be such a derailing experience if you play one wrong note or if you play one wrong finger. So let's talk about some ways that you can practice this now to get it feeling even more comfortable. Also, I'm really impressed with your hand coordination just between the hands because there's a lot going on in this piece with like the left hand constantly moving and the right hand constantly moving. So you're doing a really great job with that. So when you practice, are you counting it out loud?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Excellent. And you've done post-it method and we still have the ending to learn.
Yeah, I saw the ending to learn. And I admittedly only got that really slow hand movement to like measure 17
Yeah.
this morning.
Okay.
Like yesterday evening when I went to bed, I was still like, stop and look at the music.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, that's good. That's good that it clicked. And I think because you now have it and you have this larger chunk that is pretty solid when you play at the correct tempo, let's take like a little bit longer chunks than the post-it method. So maybe take like the first line. So let's do that. Let's take the first line that incorporates the first two measures and also that hand position change. And let's count it out loud. Let's go at that same tempo, but we're going to do it 3 times in a row and then check in with how it feels. But we're going to go nice and slow. We're going to take a little breath in between each time.
So just measures 1 through 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Just that very first line.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there it was. Wrong.
That's okay. Let's try it again. Yep, and you can go to that first beat. That's fine. That's a natural thing to do. Good. That was good. So I'm going to type that in the chat. That was 1. Let's do it 2 more times. Yes. Good. Let's do it a 3rd time. Nice. How does that feel?
Good.
Okay, now the next like 3 or 4 measure section is exactly the same, right?
Yep.
So now we're going to skip. Let's go to measure 8, where we do the same kind of a thing, but in a different hand position. And we're going to do this one. And if you want to play measure 9 is what I mean. If you want to play measure 9, 10, 11, and 12, you can, because that kind of makes sense. It's in a 4 measure section. So let's do that 3 times. Nice. Let's do that 2 more times. Good. 1 more time. Yes. Awesome. Now we're going to play measures 1 through 4 and then measures 9 through 12 side by side.
Okay. We'll see how this goes. All right.
Yes, let's do that 2 more times. That was awesome.
Oh.
Let's do it 1 more time, and maybe let's just make sure we're not getting faster. So let's go a little bit slower, but 1 more time.
But if I go faster, I get done quicker.
That's true, but then we might have to do it more.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. This is good. So there are many things happening here. First of all, we're just drilling it, right? We're just drilling it and we're getting it more into your muscle memory. We're learning it better. But the other thing that's happening in the way that we're practicing, we haven't done a lot of this kind of practice before. We're taking a 4 measure section and then we're jumping in the music to a different 4 measure section. And so not only are we really getting clear on like these 4 measure chunks or these phrases is really what they are. And in this case, in the case of this blues piece, it's very similar, but slightly different. And our brain always has a harder time with things that are almost the same, but not the same. But the other thing that we're doing when we practice this way is we're training the other kinds of your memory. So when we're talking about piano, I think I mentioned this to you before. We have our muscle memory, which you have. We have our aural memory, which is how things sound. And this is training your aural memory really well because you're hearing 2 different sections of the piece side by side. So you're able to compare and contrast what they sound like. The other thing that we're training is your visual memory. So one of the things you mentioned is having trouble like looking at the music, looking at the hands. And when we do this kind of practice where we're taking a chunk and then we're skipping to a different chunk and we're drilling them side by side like this, it really helps your eyes know where they are in the music, right? Okay. And so then when you go back to practice, if you have a better sense of what things sound like and you can hear where you're playing and you can kind of keep better track of where you are in the music, it's less likely that you're going to look back up and be like, oh no, where am I? Because you just have a better geography of what it looks like on the page. Yeah. Okay. And so what I would recommend is to do a little bit more of this and then incorporate it with the first page. And the nice thing is that when you go to put it back in the first page, really the only thing that's different than what we're doing right now is there's an added, the first one repeats, right? And so then we can do that same thing with the next 4 measures 13 through 16. You can kind of piece them all together. And then we definitely want to practice like the last 4 measures as a chunk, and then measure 17, 18, 19, and 20 as a chunk, and then 21, 22, 23, 24 as a chunk with that last little measure. Okay. So it's like, this is a chunk. Oops. That's the same. And then here's measure 17. And that would count as 1 chunk. Okay. And then measured 21. Oops, without my mistakes. But you get the idea. Then that last one is the last chunk.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
So you're going to drill them individually as little chunks, and then you're going to drill them together, but out of order. So like jumping from the first one to the last one, jumping from the first one to the second one, jumping from the third one to the fourth one. And you don't always start with number 1, and you want to make sure that you're putting them you can do them completely randomly, and then you also want to kind of put them back in the order that they go in.
Okay.
But it's gonna, if you do this next time I hear it, you're gonna be so much more solid on like where things are on the page, what they sound like, and also how they feel when you try to play them.
Okay, I can do that.